Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Today is Monday and this is another Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. Today I'm going to be doing another live Q&A. So if you are a freight broker or a freight agent, or you're thinking about becoming a freight broker or freight agent, tune in, get your questions answered. I don't care if it's about freight broker startup, freight broker sales, freight broker operations, mindset, anything that you have. I will do my absolute best to try to answer those questions for you in today's session. So hit me up in the comments with the city and state you're logging in from. Love to hear from you. Where are you at? I'm in Buffalo, New York. We'll try to do some shout outs, okay, before we get started, and then we'll jump into the Q&A, okay? But hold your questions, but hit me up in the comments with the city and state you're logging in from. We'll see how many people get live today. It looks like we might have a small group, but if you're catching this on replay, that's cool too. Hit me up with hashtag replay, and we will get this show on the road. Okay. Just a few minutes here. Hold tight and we'll get the show on the road. So let's see. What do we got? We got some people jumping in live. So I do, just so you guys know, I do these lives every Monday at noon. All right. Unless something were to happen, technical or I'm sick or whatever, holiday, right? But I do these lives every Monday at noon. I've been doing them for years and years and years. And this is open. This is free. Whether you're a member of Freight Broker Bootcamp or whether you're somebody that's just scrolling around on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever, you can be here every Monday at noon and get these live calls. I have done hundreds of these, okay? Hundreds and hundreds of these. I've been doing them for probably, I don't know, the lives I've probably been doing for, it's got to be 3, 4, 5 years now, right? And we had a lot of great questions, but here's the thing. You got to show up Monday at noon. Put it in your calendar, put it in your phone, put a reminder, do something, right? Put a little note tab on your computer. You know what else you can do? Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're on YouTube, hit subscribe and you'll get notified. And if you hit subscribe and then you do all notifications, it will actually notify you when I go live, so you won't miss these. Or even if you do, you'll get the notification and you can catch it afterwards, okay? So Chris Tripp from San Antonio, we've got somebody live. And we're going to see if we got a few more people rolling in here. And hopefully we have a good audience today. If not, we'll have a short Q&A. That's okay. I know we did have a full Q&A last week. We had a lot of really, really, really good questions from the audience. And I didn't have a specific topic that I wanted to talk about today, and I didn't want to force it. So I figured I would just do another Q&A. A lot of times I'll have a training topic that I'll talk about at the top of the hour, and then I'll do Q&A at the end. But, you know, with as busy as summer is getting and as crazy as things are, you know, I've got kids and family and hobbies and all that. I just haven't put a bunch of those ideas together. Matter of fact, if you guys ask some really good questions today, maybe those will be future topics for a more in-depth discussion where I'll do an actual training or a full-blown YouTube video on it. Okay, so hopefully you guys have some good questions today. Yeah. All right, cool. So we got Mike from Warren, Ohio, April from Texas. We got Ella Tutusa Coleman from San Jose, California. All right, so we got a few people live. All right, cool. So here we go, guys. Without further ado, let's jump into the Q&A. If you have questions, if you're thinking about becoming a freight broker, or you're thinking about becoming a freight agent, and you have some questions, you're not quite sure where to start, you're not quite sure how it works, whether that be startup or freight broker sales or operations or mindset or anything in between, right? Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what questions you guys have, and I will do my absolute best. We still got a few people joining us. Top Up Brokerage from Costa Mesa, California. Thank you. All right, so April has a question. More lead generation to calling a potential shipper would be wonderful. Okay, April, be a little bit more specific what you mean by lead generation. Are you looking for sources that you can generate cold call lists, or are you looking for inbound leads that are generated through proactive marketing efforts? So if you could be a little bit more specific, because those are very different things, okay? So if you could be a little bit more specific and hone in on exactly what you're looking for. Are you looking to generate your own leads specific to your niche? Or are you looking to go to some sort of a lead database source and then download a list that you can then call, right? I'm trying to understand where you're at. Give me a little bit more feedback on that. Cynthia, you're late. You're never late. You're always first. You're always the first, almost always the first one in the feed to say hello. And yes, we know you're from Maryland. So thank you for being here. Better late than never. Thank you so much. So anybody else who has questions? And again, April, give me a little bit more texture to what you're looking for. Be a little bit more specific, and I'll try to hone in on that exact thing rather than trying to just eat the entire elephant with one bite, right? Which might be challenging. Okay, so questions. Here's the good news. The good news is if you don't have questions, then this will be the shortest Freight Broker Bootcamp live in history, which is totally cool with me. It's a beautiful day. I got a bunch of shit to do. I got my buddy who's actually waiting here who helped fix my AC earlier and is now we're going to go grab a bite to eat. So if nobody has questions, I'm cool. That's awesome. But if you do, forever hold your peace. Get them in. Let's do it. All right. Chris Tripp asks, oh, wait. Okay. April asks, sources to generate cold call lists. Okay. So here you go. There are tons of sources, but the source that I'm going to tell you, which is, I believe, by far one of the best. Okay, I'm going to put it up on the screen for you. I'm going to give you a URL, and you're going to love this. Okay, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/free leads. That's going to bring you to what's called Apollo. Okay. But if you use this URL, they're a partner of mine. If you use this URL, you're not going to have to enter a credit card, meaning you won't even, in order to set up an account, you won't have to put a credit card in. Okay. So that Apollo is a huge data company that has an enormous list of businesses, millions of businesses throughout the United States and around the world. And they've got very, very, very good data. Now, here's the cool part. If you use that link, you can sign up for free. Not only that, they'll give you a few credits for free, but you can get an enormous amount of data from them for free. Meaning if you wanted to find bottled beverage companies in New York that did revenue over $50 million, right? You can get very granular based on geography and revenue and company size and industry and then you can even profile the people like logistics managers or shipping managers, and it's going to give you an entire list. Now, you'll be able to get the company phone number. You may not be able to get the exact email or the exact direct line to the shipping manager, but you'll have their name and you'll have the company email, which is a great starting point. Okay. And that's all free. Okay. Now, there are tons of sources out there, right? You've got Zoom Info, which is another one that's really popular. This is, again, Apollo. I like this because, again, you can sign up for free with no credit card. And then if you choose to later and you want to get more advanced data from this Apollo option, you can always buy additional data later, right? But you're not required to, and you'll never have to put your credit card in unless you decide to do that. But you'll be able to use it for free, as far as I know, forever, and get thousands and thousands of shipper leads for free. So I think that's a great place to start. That's what I always recommend to all of my clients right now, as far as if they're looking for a source to build a cold call list. So good question. Good question. Great start. Well, now the questions have started to flow. Okay. All right. So Chris Tripp asks, can you please remind me of what is included when I'm able to sign up for bootcamp? So bootcamp is everything that I was looking for when I was researching the industry back in 2003. So back in 2003, the internet was around, but there wasn't a lot of freight broker training availability. There wasn't these online courses really, so it was very hard to piece together the information. Okay. There was some available. So what I ended up doing is I ended up hiring a consultant. You probably heard the story, paid him over $10,000 to fly to Buffalo, spend a week with me, answer all my questions before I got started. So when I put together Freight Broker Bootcamp, I put together what I was looking for, which was the training, meaning how to broker a load from A to Z, what you have to do in order to get your broker authority, all of the forms and contracts. And then I threw in a whole bunch of bells and whistles, like bonuses, like a shipper database and a carrier database and a whole bunch of other stuff. So if you want to, and it's an online course. So this is a self-paced, go at your own pace online course. This is not a coaching program. Now we do offer online support where you can submit your support questions and tickets. And if you have a technical issue or you have a question about what is a lumper, right? Or how do I get set up with a factoring company or whatever it is, we will help you navigate you through that through email. Okay. And through our support system. So I hope that helps, Chris. That makes sense. Plus, here's the great part. We offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money back guarantee. Okay. That means if for any reason you sign up for boot camp and in the first 60 days, you're not happy, just send us an email requesting your money back. We'll send your money back 100%. Okay. We're not worried about it. This is the reason why we've had over 10,000 students go through the program. Okay. Because number one, I've built a highly successful freight brokerage and done over $200 million of freight broker. I've trained thousands of students. Many of them have went on to build 6, 7, and even 8-figure businesses. So I don't, if you're not happy, I don't want your money, right? So it has an unconditional 100% 60-day money back guarantee. So if you want the details about Freight Broker Bootcamp and the online training, the online course, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Okay. Hope that helps, Chris. Hope that answered your question. Let's see. Question from Tony. If there's any, oh my God, good Lord. This guy's out. All right. Katie, what is the target search when looking for shippers? Well, it really depends, right? But you're going to want to niche down. So, for example, you're going to want to probably have some geographical criteria. You're probably going to want to have some industry criteria. So I just gave an example of bottled beverages in New York. And then you're probably going to want to have some sort of a job title like shipping manager, warehouse manager, logistics manager, transportation manager, operations manager, right? Something along those lines. Those are the types of titles. So anything with shipping or logistics in it, those are the people that you're going to want to try to do some outreach to, right? And of course, you're probably going to you may want to do it based on company size, employees, or maybe revenue, depending upon how your source breaks it out. I tell new brokers in particular to focus on small to medium-sized companies. And a small company is maybe one that's doing 5 million plus in sales, and a medium company is one that's doing, let's call it $500 million. Okay. Believe it or not, 500 million is not a big company. Okay. So I'd say small to medium, that you're going to want to probably be in that range. Okay. And you may, particularly when you first started, there's obviously a lot more smaller companies that are doing 10 or 20 or 50 million than there are companies that are doing $500 million or $1 billion, right? You can imagine that, right? So I hope that helps, Katie. If you have a follow-up, let me know. Okay. Leo King Logistics. I want to work as a freight agent. Good. Well, if you need some training and support, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com, or you can check out my YouTube channel, and I've got over 300 free training videos there. Hope that helps. Let us know how we can help. Okay. So could you please show us how we should talk with a shipper on a cold call? Okay. So here's the thing. There is no one size fits all script. I'm going to give you a little bit of a framework of how you should and shouldn't talk to a prospect. Okay. First, we're going to start with the shouldn't do, right? The don't do. All right. So the biggest challenge with new freight brokers and new freight agents is they typically find these old school, outdated, antiquated sales scripts online, on Google, or maybe from their brokerage that they are working for, or maybe from a friend. And these old school, outdated sales scripts are exactly that. You need to avoid them. There's 3 or 4 of them, and they all fall into the same sort of framework. So For example, one of the ones that you're going to hear all the time is, hey, my name's Dennis. I'm a freight broker. We have trucks in your area pretty regular. Wonder if we can move some of your freight. If you knew how many times a shipper's heard that, you would want to vomit. So the last thing you want to do is sound like everybody else. So don't use that script. It's a terrible script, and the script is going to get you a lot more rejection than having any sort of positive feedback. So that's one example. Another example is, hey, my name's Dennis. We're a freight broker. We can save you 15% or 10%, or we can save you money on your freight. Wonder if we can quote on your lanes. Again, now you've painted yourself in a corner. Now you have to be the cheapest. They've heard it a million times before. Rarely are you going to be the cheapest, nor should you be the cheapest, but it's a bad pitch. It's a bad presentation. It's a bad cold call because they've heard it time and time and time again. And what happens is the more they hear these generic sales scripts over and over again, what happens is it starts to trigger a negative response. So what happens is they hear your cadence, they hear the words, and they recognize the pattern. And then all of a sudden you get this negative response and they blow you out of the gates in the first 5 or 15 seconds of your call. If that's ever happened to you, that's probably part of the problem. That's another example, right? So there are various examples out there where you have these generic cold call scripts. Another one might be, hey, my name's Dennis. I'm a freight broker. We have access to over 10,000 trucks and we'd love to move your freight. And these are all, I'm giving you a very generic version of these because I'm trying to get through this very quickly. But the point is that generic cold call scripts suck. Stop using them. You're doing more harm than good. That's a fact. Okay, I'll debate it with anybody. That's a fact. All right. So this is what we don't do. We don't do the generic one size fits all, sales script because they've heard it before and it's going to trigger a negative response. Okay. Now, what do we do then? So what we do is we take the strategy and the philosophy of be different. So are you going to create a new sales script for every single prospect? Probably not. But what you have to understand is you have to come up with a compelling sales hook that differentiates you from all the other calls that they're having. So I'm going to give you an example that I've used before. It's a really good example, and it'll really show you what I mean by being different. So let's say, for example, I've got a lead, ABC Widgets, and it's on my list. I've got the company name. I got the shipping manager's name. I got the phone number. So I do a little bit of research before the call and I look up on the company and it says, I see that they acquired another company, a competitor 6 months ago or 3 months ago. And I make note of that. And I decide after gathering some sales intelligence about the shipping manager and the company, that's going to be my sales hook, right? That's going to be my entry, my hook. So what I might do is when I call up John or Joe or whoever the shipping manager is or Jill, whoever it is, I introduce myself and then I use that as the sales hook. So I might say, so John, listen, my name's Dennis with LDI. I just read an article about your company, how you guys had acquired one of your major competitors. First of all, congrats. Okay. Congrats to that. But second of all, I had a question for you. How is this new acquisition, right? What are some of the challenges that you're seeing in regards to integrating the two different logistics departments together as a part of this new acquisition that you guys have had? I know I've worked with clients in the past and I know that can be very challenging. So that's an example. I just did that off the cuff, right? So I'm using something that's highly relevant to the prospect, okay? Because that's an acquisition. It shows, number one, that I'm knowledgeable about their company. I'm knowledgeable about their industry. And I'm using that as a conversation starter. I'm using that as a differentiator. I can guarantee you they haven't had anybody else call them that day that asked them that same thing. They haven't anybody else that called them this week asking that same thing because they all use these generic, stupid sales scripts. So that's an example of how to use sales intelligence to create a compelling sales hook, right? So that's what I mean by being different. If you want to get treated like everybody else, sound the same. If you want to be treated differently, then you got to be different. So that should give you a little bit of a framework. I hope it helps. Oh, by the way, listen, it's perfect timing for this because if you guys need help with sales, and I know a large majority of you will because it's where most people struggle. I have a program called my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator Program. It is a coaching program where I teach my best freight broker sales strategies, tactics, tools, my entire sales system that allowed me to do over $200 million as a freight broker. Now, it's sold out right now. You can enroll, but you can get on the wait list. If you go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist, what'll happen is you'll be confirmed into the wait list. And then once spots open up, probably in the next 3 to 6 weeks, hopefully, then you will get notified. You'll get a text or an email. Give me 1 second. All right, guys. Somehow my mic unplugged. I don't know what happened. Anyway, I'm sure you guys can hear me now. Scrolling. Mike, I want to start my brokerage, but the more I look into the industry, it seems oversaturated. Are you seeing that, or is the best time to jump in? Definitely not oversaturated. Let me explain to you why. Okay. Statistically speaking, and you do this, you do your own research. Year over year, decade over decade, 3PLs, brokers, logistics companies control more shipper direct freight than ever before. Okay. So there'll be more brokers controlling shipper direct freight this year than last year than there was 10 years ago. So demand is continuing to increase. Okay. Now, here's the key. Markets go up, markets go down. Every market, I don't care what industry you're in. I don't care if you're in the semiconductor industry or you're in the lithium industry or you're in the bottled beverage industry. I don't care what industry you're in. The real estate industry, insurance industry, markets go up, markets go down. I'm going to give you the answer you're going to answer this question for yourself. Again, we know markets go up, we know markets go down. Is the best time to join a market when it's at its peak or when it's towards the bottom, leveled out, and now about to and going to rebound? Which one's better? At the peak and it going to go and only can go down, or more towards the bottom where it can go up? You tell me. Now, either time you can be successful, but the difference is that in a down market, if you can start your business and build a successful business in a down market, when that upturn, if you can get yourself established and just get a small handful of customers and just get moving along, right? Generating a little bit of cash flow in that down market, when the market starts to boom, which it will, because it always does once it turns, then you're going to be in a great position, right, to take advantage of that upward trend. Now, if you wait till it's at the top, and then all of a sudden you try to enter the market and it goes down, now you're swimming upstream, right? Now you're swimming against the current. So that's my strategy. That's my philosophy. I believe there's still a lot of demand for good brokers and good agents, right? Because we are in a global economy. It continues to grow. Plus, with everything that's going on with the current administration, if they're successful with bringing manufacturing back here, that's going to be an even bigger boom for the logistics industry. So those are a few dynamics I wanted to share with you. I hope that helps, Mike. Let me get rid of that banner. Hold on. Vishaka Shah, one of my favorite people who went through our program and has built a very, very successful brokerage. So congratulations, Vishaka. Thank you. I can never say enough good things about you. You were amazing. Okay, question from Leo King Logistics. How do experienced brokers actually judge a freight agent's performance in the first 2 weeks? Well, if I were a broker and had hired an agent, and in the first 2 weeks, the only thing I could truly judge if they had a book of business, then they would have probably already started moving freight in the first couple of weeks. If they don't have a book of business, well, then they're probably not going to have freight moving in the first 2 weeks. But they would have done things like they would have followed whatever procedures I put in place for onboarding, whether that be training on software, whether that be any sort of administrative things. They would have been actively looking to build their business, and they probably would have been doing a significant amount of outbound prospecting. So those are some of the things that a new broker might look for with a new agent in the first couple of weeks. But I don't think the expectation should be, that you're going to start moving freight in the first 2 weeks. I mean, it may happen, but, it's not uncommon for new agents to go, weeks or even a few months before they start moving their first loads, and then they can get that momentum. Matter of fact, I had a student who went through the program, struggled for 6 months, didn't move a load. And then at the 6-month mark, got a couple clients, and in the next 6 months did over $1 million in sales. Okay. You probably have heard that story before, but yeah, struggled for 6 months and really didn't move much freight. I'm not sure if he moved any loads, but then got the first client, and then, the dam broke free and everything, started to really flow for him, and did $1 million in that next 12 months after that. And now still has a multi 7-figure business. So hope that helps, Leo. Okay. Another question from Leo. What red flags should I look for when signing a contract to work under a broker MC? Do not sign a broker agent agreement that has a non-compete or a non-circumvent, anything that prevents you from taking your clients with you. If you decide to leave and become your own broker, or if you decide to leave and work as an agent for someone else. That's number one. Number two would be, obviously you want to make sure your commission structure is defined. You want to make sure whatever chargeback structure is defined, meaning they're probably going to advance your commissions. And then what happens if the shipper doesn't pay? How are chargebacks handled? Some of the basic stuff. I do have a document. Let me see if I have this. I have a cheat sheet. Here you go. All right. FreightBrokerBootcamp.com/17 questions. This is a download that you guys can all have for free. And what happens is this is going to give you 17 different questions that you should consider or possibly ask, many, if not all, to any prospective broker that you're looking to become an agent for. So this would be the best document I could give you. Go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/17 questions. You can download that free cheat sheet. It's got all 17 questions, got everything you need, very comprehensive, vetting process for you as an agent looking to sign on with a broker. So I hope that helps. I hope that's what you were looking for. Katie, is there a website or generator for rates, percent, that we should post these loads for? Okay, so there are tools out there to help you with rating, but those tools, in my opinion, are not designed to be the end all be all rating tool. Meaning if you just put Buffalo to Atlanta flatbed, it's going to give you, the exact rate you're going to have to pay a truck or the exact rate you're going to charge a shipper based on a certain margin. That's not realistic yet in this day and age. And I don't know that it ever will be. Okay. Maybe it'll get better with AI and machine learning, and it has gotten better, but the only way we work in the spot market, okay, which means there's rate volatility in and out of any market in any given day because the supply and demand of trucks to loads is different day to day, week to week, season to season. So the only way to truly understand what the spot market rate is, what you're going to pay a truck so that you can then mark that up, is first use some of those rating tools to get a little bit of a baseline, and then source some carriers through the load board by posting the load or calling some of the carriers that are posted in those lanes, or use maybe some of the historical lane data and then call the companies that are trucks that are posting trucks in that lane. And then what you want to do is you want to do what I call find the market. Finding the market is trying to find what the average cost is going to be to buy a truck from Buffalo to Atlanta flatbed. So once I identify that and I've got 3 or 4 carriers and we're all in that same range, now all of a sudden, now I can mark that up, right? Typical markup or typical profit margin, I should say. Let's not say markup because that's different. Typical profit margin for a broker that you should be shooting for is somewhere between 10 and 20%. So for example, if the truck is going to cost you, $1,000, right? Or let's say the truck is going to cost you $850 just for easy math, and you want to make 15%, then obviously you've got to sell it to the shipper at $1,000, which means you would make $150 profit on a $1,000 load, which is 15% margin. For full truckload freight, 10 to 20% is kind of the norm. I did a study of the top freight brokerages this past, several months ago, and we looked at their revenue, their gross revenue, their net revenue, and on average, they averaged 15%. Now, I know everybody thinks that these brokers are all making 30, 40, 50%. They're not. The data doesn't support it. The facts don't support it. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but what I'm saying is on average, when they lose money, when they make a small amount of money, or when they make a larger amount of money, the average is around 15% for full truckloads. So that would be the process. And the good thing is once you understand the baseline of the market for Buffalo to Atlanta flatbed, it's not going to go up $300 in a day unless there's a weather event or something significant, right? Maybe a holiday or something like that. So you'll have a baseline of what that cost is going to be. That's a reason why niching down geographically can be very powerful, because now you understand not only the rates, but the carriers that are going in and out of that specific lane. And it's very easy for you to quote and source trucks. So I hope that helps. Katie, it's okay. I like the questions. Good. I may not get to everybody's question today because we went from not having any questions to having a ton, which is great. But let me just see what we got. Okay, question from Joshua Wood. As a new freight broker, what should I expect as a mix of sales revenue in the first 3 months from agent sales to direct sales? Joshua, I have no idea. I can't predict. what your business is going to do. I have no idea. I don't know enough about you. I don't know enough about your business. Let me read it again. Am I missing something? As a new freight broker, what should I expect as a mix of sales revenue in the first few months? Depends. Sorry, I lost you guys again. Sorry. I don't know why that audio keeps popping out. I have no idea. Hopefully you guys can hear me now. Listen, so what I'm saying, I'm not sure where I cut off, but here, as far as credit goes, what happens is this. You have to build your credit. It's going to take a little bit of time. There are going to be some carriers that are going to work with you early on and some carriers that won't. The carriers that will help you build your credit, but I'm going to give you a free, it's worth $250. It's absolutely free to my community. It's put together by Operify. I went through this program. This is a freight broker credit building course. You're going to love it. Go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/broker credit. It's absolutely free, costs you nothing. I went through the entire program, and this is going to teach you the exact steps and what not to do to build your credit as a new broker. Okay. So rather than me trying to regurgitate all that here, I would tell you that is your absolute best bet. But just know, everybody that starts out with no credit. Okay. I started out with no credit. You know, all of my students started out with no credit. That's how it works. But you'll get some carriers that'll work with you. We're having some technical issues here. I don't No idea why this thing keeps disconnecting, but the fact is it is. I don't know why. So we've done a lot of questions. We've been on here for about 40 minutes. I apologize for any technical issues. I got to figure out what the problem is. It has to do with one of my connections. Apparently it's loose and I have no idea why, but I can't fix it on the fly. You know, I'll go until we have another interruption. Hopefully we don't. Let's see how many other questions we can get answered before that happens. Joshua, I did answer your question, and the answer was, I don't know. I don't know what to expect. If you want to be more specific, I don't know enough about your business. Okay, Joshua? So you're going to have to be, I can't predict how you want to grow your business. I don't know what the revenues are going to be the first 3 months. I don't know your sales skills. I don't know your niche. I don't know if you're going to be doing the selling or you're hiring agents to try to do it for you. I really can't answer that question. It's an impossible question. Here's what I can tell you I did. My first month in business, we did 12 loads. My first year in business, we did 1.2 million. Now, I've had students that have done way better than that, right? I've had students that have done 12 loads in their first week. I've also had students that have done 2 or 3 million their first year. But I can't tell you what you're going to do, right? That wouldn't be fair. Okay. I have 2 agents who claim to have a book of business interest in joining my new freight brokerage. What should I keep in mind before bringing them on board? If you really want that, if you're requiring them to have a book of business, then they should be able to show you a commission report showing they don't necessarily have to show, they can redact the company names out and stuff, but if they show a commission report showing that they have actively been moving freight in the last 90 days, that is going to be your best vetting process as far as understanding if they really have a book of business. When we recruited agents, you were required to show proof of your book of business. That's how it was. If you couldn't show proof, we didn't hire you. So you had to show some sort of commission reports or some sort of financial statements, because again, my brokerage was specifically focused on, we had built a product that was specific for agents that had a book. Now, there are other brokers out there that will work with startups that don't have a book. The vetting process is a little different for them, right? It's more skills driven than it is success or historical driven, right? So I hope that helps. That would be a tip. Is it better for new agents specialize in one freight type, reefer, flatbed, or go general? Definitely niche down. If you know anything about me, riches are in niches when you're a freight broker or freight agent. So you should start with a smaller niche. The example that I use is my own perfect example. When I first started, we did van Northeast outbound, meaning if it originated in New York, New Jersey, PA, all the way up through New England, and it went on a van, and it went west or south, that was our niche. Now, if it went from south to north, that was not our niche. We didn't move that freight. If it went from the Midwest to the Northeast, we didn't move that freight. If it went on a reefer, we didn't move that freight. So that was our initial niche. We started with van Northeast outbound. Then we moved into refrigerated and flatbed out of the Northeast eventually, right? It was years later, but yeah, we moved into that eventually. And then eventually, we strategically migrated. We had a client in New Hampshire that had facilities in the South, and they were asking us for a lot of help. So then we helped facilitate moving into the Southeast by having a customer relationship, and that helped us enter that market and grow that market. And then eventually we grew into all kinds of different niches, but each one of our agents and each one of our locations was really much more niche oriented. Most of them were not generalists. Okay. Some of them did multiple niches, but I'll say it and I'll say it again. Riches are in niches, niche down, and you can always strategically expand beyond that initial niche, but it's easier to penetrate. It's easier to understand your market. It's easier to understand your rates. It's easier to understand your customers. It's easier to get traction by niching down. So I hope that helps. Welcome, Willie. Thanks for joining. Parminder says, I felt confident after completing your boot camp, but when I applied for an agent position, they questioned whether I had a book of business. That's because you're talking to the wrong companies. Don't go after the large brokerages. Don't go back to my brokerage, LDI, and ask to become an agent when you don't have a book of business. You need to find small to medium-sized brokerages that have been in business a year to maybe 5 years, that are doing, $1 million, $3 million, $5 million, $10 million, that are looking to grow. There are tons of them. There are thousands of those brokers out there. And you offer them a zero risk, 100% performance-based straight commission opportunity for them to expand their business. And I promise you, if you talk to 30, 40, 50 of those companies, okay, it's not going to happen the first one. If you talk to 30, 40, 50 of those companies, I've never, ever had a student that hasn't got hired as an agent and got an opportunity as an agent, ever. But if you go to the companies that are looking for a book of business, well, and you don't have a book of business, don't be surprised when they give you the Heisman and reject you, okay? So you got to go to the right people. You got to go to the right audience. There are tons of $1 million to $5-10 million brokers out there. The majority of the market, more than 50% of the market, okay? Just so you guys know, I'm going to give you a lesson here. More than 50% of the freight brokerage market does less than $10 million in sales. They're small, but they would love to be 50 million. They just don't have the people to do it. So hope that helps. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today. Listen, I appreciate you guys being here. If you enjoyed this, do me a favor. If you learned anything from this, I apologize for the audio disruptions. I apologize for the technical issues. But if you learned anything from this, hit me up in the comments and let me know. 1 to 10. 1, Dennis, this was terrible. 10, this was great. Come back next week and we'll do more live Q&A. I'm always going to have questions. If you found value, hit the like button, hit me up in the comments with 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, as it may be, if I completely struck out. Hopefully you guys got some good feedback. Hopefully you guys were able to ascertain some nuggets and pull some nuggets from this. Again, apologize for the technical issues. I will try to get them ironed out. I have a feeling it's just a wiring connection that's loose with my audio and I'm probably banging it with my hands because I have a tendency to talk with my hands too much. I think I inherited that from my Italian wife. But anyway, appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for the feedback. If you didn't enjoy it and you thought it was anything less than an 8, give me some feedback. What did I do wrong? What happened? I want to improve it. Okay. And for those of you that, April, only an 8 because of that. Okay. No problem. No problem. I apologize. We come back, we do these lives every week. Okay. We always do the Q&A. All right. So listen, have an awesome day. Have an awesome week. If you guys are looking for an online program that you can go at your own pace, that has a 60-day, 100% unconditional money-back guarantee, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Trained over 10,000 students, had that program for over 15 years. And again, we'll take care of you. You guys won't be disappointed. Have an awesome day. Have an awesome week. I'll see you next Monday on the next Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. Thanks all. Appreciate the feedback. Appreciate the great questions. And again, we'll see you guys next week.